Welcome to Get Real. We are so excited that you're joining us today for another engaging conversation with independent financial advisors and industry leaders who support them. Today in studio, we have a very special guest, Donna Kendrick, owner and financial advisor with Sefton Financial. Welcome, Donna.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome.
I appreciate it.
We love it when there's someone in studio. Of course, that's been few and far between given our COVID restrictions, but we're
Yes.
happy to have you.
Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Sure. So we're going to talk about your practice and how you've built an amazing practice, but we're going to start off with your background. You were formerly a pharmaceutical executive. You lived abroad and you taught English in Italy.
I did.
Wow.
Share all that story.
Yep. All right, so back from the very beginning, so I wound up going to Penn State, had a degree in QBA, which is like business statistics, a big dork, got my MBA, and I started doing financial forecasting for the pharmaceutical industry. Fast forward a few years, and my husband, Gregory, worked for Homeland Security and got a position abroad.
Wow.
So we picked up our kids and we moved to Rome. So over a 7-year period, we moved back and forth a few times, had a few kids along the way. But when I did finally live over in Rome, I had to give up my career, a little conflict of interest, because I worked for an international company. So instead, I went and taught English to Italian kids, so they all have a Philadelphia accent.
Oh,
they all
lovely.
say water now. But we did that for our kids for a while, and then came back home stateside.
Very nice.
That's wonderful.
Yep.
Very nice. You came back home, you had 3 children, and you suffered a great loss. And through that loss came another experience of becoming a financial advisor because of the financial advisor that had prepared you for all of the things that you now help and prepare your clients for.
Yep, exactly. Sorry to
No,
tear-eyed there.
that's okay.
Moved back stateside, moved back to the Philadelphia area, and in 2013,
You were working with a financial advisor, you and your husband,
We
if I
did.
recall, who
Yeah.
had prepared all of your financial planning, wealth management needs.
Yep, I've got it now. So yes, so before my husband and I moved to Rome, we kind of pulled ourselves together, knowing that this was a wonderful opportunity for us. We had sold our home in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, right before the housing bubble popped. So we had a large investment, and we didn't know what to do with it. We were smart, educated people, so we had a financial advisor, and he didn't just invest our profits from the house. He actually helped us with the financial plan and made sure we had the right life insurance involved and set. So that's actually what protected me. So back in 2013, I lost my husband. He passed away. My kids were 8, 11, and 12. But it was that advice from that financial advisor when I was younger that helped protect me. I could keep my house. I could actually educate my kids. I knew I was going to be okay. I mean, it feels tight for the first 2 months, I'm not going to lie. But I was going to be okay. But like so many other women, that financial advisor that had helped us back in 2007 had progressed in his career and then was doing succession planning for small businesses. So he wasn't an exact fit for me. Like I was a widow looking for someone to really help me with the next steps. So I actually switched advisors like so many women do after a big transition or a loss.
Right.
And the advice that I got from my advisor after the loss of my husband was fantastic. I wanted to focus on raising my kids and just have someone else handle all the other stuff. I was capable of doing it, but I didn't want to. So got a connection with another advisor through word of mouth from another widow that I knew, and it was a wonderful experience. So.
As much of the referral systems work, right? It's
true.
Who did you use? Who did you use?
Yeah, it was actually the gentleman who played the bagpipes in my wedding had passed away suddenly, and I knew about that because it was a family friend, and I reached out to his wife and said, who did you use?
Wow.
That's how I found my advisor.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then a few years later, figured, you know what, time for a career change for me. And I wanted to get back, I had to get back out there
Right.
and start earning money to provide for my kids. And I thought, you know what, I want to do what my advisor did for me for other people in transition.
Yeah.
And I went back at it, got my, went back to school, studied to be a CDFA, went mentoring underneath the advisor who had helped me out that whole time, and just kept on going, opening my practice ultimately to focus on families in transition. Yep.
You know, I think it's amazing. we hear from so many advisors, either they come on the show or through our work at Beacon, that it really is something significant that compels them to come into this business, whatever type of life event they've experienced, because it makes you able to be more empathetic, I think, right? If you're in that seat and you're saying, I've experienced this before, and it's going to be okay, even if it's, you know, due to a tragedy or divorce, you know, those are very sensitive times.
Yeah.
And I think you really do need to pull from that empathetic space, right?
It's true, and to know and to walk in someone's shoes it's priceless, right? And to really understand that there's immediate goals, transitional and long-term goals.
Right.
That person I was that first year after the loss of my husband was not the person I was 2 years later, nor were those the financial needs that I had to focus on.
Yeah.
So to have the right advisor there for you to help you along the way, and that's the service I hope I provide. But to your point, because I deal with a lot of widows and widowers, I understood them. I knew what that point of transition was for them. And I ultimately got referred out to a lot of people that were in divorce situations. And I shied away from it in the beginning. Like, no, it's different. It's different than widowhood. But it's really not. It's actually a little bit more complicated. So people going through divorce, a lot of time it's not just...
Because you're fighting.
Yes, it's emotional. It's not one and done, right?
Right.
Like, I knew where I stood the day that Greg passed. If you're through a divorce situation, it's always variable.
Yeah.
So I went back and got my CDFA because I really wanted to be able to guide the clients that were in the process of divorce, not just after divorce, to understand what moves for them and the considerations they needed to have.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump quickly. We'll revisit that later, but I believe that you said that attorneys that you were working with were also looking for that certification.
They were. So a lot of the attorneys, we call them our centers of influence, right? So my estate attorneys and my divorce attorneys, they're great attorneys, but many of them don't have the finance background behind the scenes.
Right.
So to be able to help them understand the financial documents, speak to their clients and educate them as to why maybe taking the house is a lot different than taking a part of the pension. And the long-term effects of that is really helpful, because that little bit of education and knowledge can help that divorce process move forward a little bit easier.
Right. And I think you just emphasized a huge point, right? When we think about financial advisors, we're thinking about, okay, how can you maximize my returns, right? That's your standard investor. But when you're talking about someone that's going through this huge life event, to really help them not so much focus on that, but really what are the ramifications of this 1 year, 3 years, 10, 20 years down the line? Because it's so important and critical. And it's not just picking up this bucket of assets and throwing it in this other bucket, right? And that's, you really do need to understand that nuance.
You do, and you have to understand roles for a young widow like myself. Life insurance comes in. Well, wait, I don't have my late husband's years in his career to build on his retirement savings. That's gone, and he was the breadwinner. So how do I take that life insurance and make it into a retirement savings for myself? How do I position that money well so I can qualify for financial aid? Because at that point in time, I didn't make what my husband did, and I had kids entering into secondary school and about to enter college. So yeah, it's really important to have that.
Absolutely.
Yep, and there's a big difference too between financial planning and asset management, and I'm a financial planner primarily.
Right.
Asset management, I have a stat degree, I'm a big dork, I do great at it, I like to say, but more than anything else, I won't manage someone's assets without having their plan in place, because that's really where you get to know all of their goals, their needs, and what makes them tick. It is.
Yeah, absolutely. Big difference. So it was important to you to become this financial advisor, but did you know out of the gate that you wanted to do this concentration, that the CDFA that you ultimately ended up getting, you just knew that was for you?
I felt that I needed to become more aware of what goes on in my clients' lives while they're sitting there negotiating their divorce. I could help them as an advisor on the back end after they got their settlement, but I couldn't really give them directed advice before the divorce. And I wanted to be able to do that. I wanted to be able to help the lawyers that I work with, even the accountants that I work with understanding the ramifications that could come out of a settlement, as well as the opportunities that are provided for a family beforehand. So that CDFA was a wonderful way to open that door to helping people with education and guidance before the divorce. So no, originally not what I thought I wanted to do. Really happy I did it afterwards.
Yeah. I can imagine so. And you know, it's interesting to me too. I mean, we see the CFP designation all the time, but you don't always see that CDFA.
No.
Do you think that's something that should be really secondary, because who doesn't have clients that get divorced and remarried?
And I'm going to add, a young woman getting divorced with children versus there's been an uptick in divorce of mature women in their 60s. Those are very different experiences. And there are different opportunities that need to be uncovered for them. And unfortunately, the maybe mature person isn't as well versed in the land of finances or had paid attention to her
Right.
husband's world as much as she should have.
Right.
So I would think that that is uber necessary.
And not to replace it, but very complementary.
Correct.
Because you have planning as this big umbrella, but then really this focus.
Yeah, so I look at the CDFA work before the plan, right? And just really a whole lot of education and guidance, again, for the attorneys as well as the clients, and to be their helping hand moving forward. And to your point, yeah, gray divorce, it's out there. And that's a lot different
Gray
than
divorce.
Gray divorce. Of understanding, okay, maybe we have so many, for example, fixed annuities. How does that work, right? Because as a couple, you have that in there as a flow of income for both of you. Who gets it? Can you cash it out? Is it locked in? Is it survivorship? How does that work? Those are nuances that you really need a professional to be working alongside of you so you understand how that works. Because gray divorce, like, this is it. There's no more earning capabilities. How are you going to make it work?
Right.
Yeah.
And I would imagine too, it's so reassuring for the client that's sitting there with you and knowing, you went through your own experiences and you're really able to look at it through their lens.
Yeah.
That it takes a huge burden off of them.
Too, and I do a lot of work now, and I'm blessed and lucky with blended families. So a lot of my clients that are widows or divorcees are going for it again. I myself am. So how do we make these decisions during our divorce settlement while we're negotiating so that should we get married further along down the road, we are still providing for our kids the way we need to. I use the example of myself. My mom, I always remember, divorced my dad when we were in 4th grade. And it was fine, and she did her settlement, and they moved on. And it wound up to be that when my mom got remarried, the alimony went away.
Yeah.
My mother had no clue she was going to lose alimony when she got remarried. And she
Right.
always would reflect back and be like, ooh, I should have gone for more of the pension instead of the alimony, knowing that she would have lost that benefit and not knowing. Now, my dad thought it was funny. My mom, not so much.
Well, I would imagine, yeah. But you just brought up a great point, right? I think nobody goes into a marriage thinking, oh, well, I'm probably going to be divorcing you, right? So if you're a couple and you're going through building your assets together and you're together, if someone has this feeling that, maybe this marriage isn't working, they should really be having those conversations before those discussions even start with the spouse, right?
Agreed. And even with blended families, like understanding what could be the right of your children.
Yeah.
What did you earn before you blended your families together? Most of us that are blending families are in our 40s and our 50s, right? Maybe even early 60s. So kind of what are we protecting for our children from our legacy before our marriage before? And having that open conversation. So much of it is about financial conversations
Yeah.
between the couple moving forward.
Yeah.
Yep.
And with planning, sorry.
No, we've got to take a quick break, but this is really a great conversation. We're going to continue with this aspect when we get back, so stay tuned.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Boardwalks built for fun. Legendary rock and roll clubs.
This is how we do it. Hippity hop.
Casinos by the ocean.
Hippity hop.
Now that's New Jersey. 130 miles of beautiful beaches. Solid rock. And everything in between.
Look in the window.
Now that's New Jersey. Plan your New Jersey trip at visitnj.org. Waves of fun. Nights of excitement. And a trail of memories. Now that's New Jersey.
Welcome back. We're having a great conversation with Donna Kendrick of Sefton Financial. On break, we were talking about how you have to really have a hard conversation, perhaps, before you get married about, especially if you've got kids, and how you protect yourself. So that's really critical, regardless of what age you are.
Yeah, and also how do you wish to provide for one another, right? Should second time around you either divorce or one of you passes, how are we going to protect one another? How are the kids going to be cared for? How are you going to keep that family unit together?
Right.
Yep.
So let's switch gears and talk about your
'Kay.
practice. You're a solo practitioner, but you've got a wealth of people behind you, behind the scenes. You manage your day, quite interesting. So talk to us about that. How do you, Donna, serve your clients in all of the ways that you need to, respond to their questions throughout the day? Tell us about a day in a life.
Yeah, time management. Let's just start with that. So
we love it.
Yes,
first
we do.
start with an Excel spreadsheet, and I literally tracked every minute of my day for about 2 weeks straight. Put it into categories, color-coded it like the stat major I was, and then realized, okay, where do I waste my time, right? What gets pushed off day after day after day? And then identified opportunities to have help on those things or a new time structure to tackle them on my own. So for example, on Friday mornings, it's work on the business day. So I don't see clients, I don't take calls, I'm literally working on the business. Paperwork. Got a virtual assistant that does all of my paperwork. I used to do that for the remainder of my Fridays. So now my Fridays are free in the afternoons, either for family time or to take on a client that I couldn't get in on the regular schedule. So the virtual assistant was so helpful. Having someone answer your phones when you might not be there. Right now I have live people answering my phones while I sit here, trained. Understanding your clients, understanding who's there, and using those resources well, and more importantly, a calendar system. So all of my clients, all of my centers of influence will actually get on my calendar through, it's called Calendly, a system.
We use that. We love
Sends a
it.
reminder. Oh, it has changed my
Yes.
world. I had to, even after I had it in place, I had to be loyal to it because I have a hard time saying no to anyone. I'll be like, oh, I'll sneak you in here. But that calendar system is actually there to protect my time.
Yes.
And using that efficiently. So having technology on my side as a sole practitioner has been fantastic, and utilizing technology has freed me up to have one-on-ones and to have situations like this.
Was there a little adoption curve?
There was.
How long was that? Because many are thinking, oh, that's great, but
Yeah.
I'm not tech savvy. I can't incorporate that into my practice.
Yeah, Calendly came early. Virtual assistant for paperwork came a little later, and that was after a whole of that time blocking of, wow, like if I want to really move my business forward, I can't be belabored with all of this paperwork.
Right.
So
Yeah.
do I need to know how to do it? Yes. Do I
Yeah.
need to do it correctly? Yes. And do you need to have the right person so there aren't errors in resubmission? Because during COVID, we all moved to Zoom. We all moved to paperless.
Yep.
And if you get one little box wrong on paperless, it's a new like resubmission. You don't want to do that to your
No.
clients.
No.
No way. So, yep.
I love that you said protect your time. And everything you just said made, my little antennae go up as a coach and as consultants, right? Because that really is what it's about. It's not something overtaking your time or overcomplicating things for yourself. If you are disciplined in terms of how you're spending your time, if you're focusing on certain things on certain days, it really makes your life easier.
It does.
And it's not meant to box you in. I think
No.
that's a lot of times that's the
Misperception.
perception that, I don't want to commit to that because I need flexibility. Well, you can still have flexibility within a certain parameter, right?
Yep.
And it allows you to have more of a balance, I think, as a business owner.
It's true.
The identifying, to me, what you said, identifying how you are literally spending every day, every hour, every half an hour, doing whatever that is, you do uncover time wasters.
Yeah.
You uncover inefficiencies.
Yeah.
You uncover, oh, I'm doing marketing here, I'm responding here, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. That's not an efficient way, and what you say is critical. If you wish to grow and scale your practice, you must incorporate these strategies.
It's true. And if I want to serve my clients well, then I need to streamline my business too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't constantly be distracted
No.
answering emails. So I answer my emails at 10, at 2, and at 4. And if I'm doing something that doesn't entail all of my attention, then sure, I'll get in there. I love to answer emails right away.
Right.
I had to train myself not to.
Yeah.
And that was part of that time blocking.
I have that
Sucks you in.
disease. I have that disease.
Whereas I'll be like, no, I didn't read it yet because I always do something at this time in the morning. But it sucks you in. It's, you become really a slave to this disorganized way of just doing things. You're overly proactive, I'd like to say. And that's actually, we do that with our clients too, because sometimes the sentiment is also, I feel like I get nothing done.
Right.
Well, so what do your days look like?
Yeah.
What do you really, you're doing a million things, but there's no
Forward
cohesiveness.
and no forwardness.
Yeah, no forward motion, there's no cohesiveness. So I love that. And you really cannot scale if you're not doing those things.
It's true, and then also using technology. So like all of my
Yeah.
clients now have their personal financial website. And why is that wonderful? Because all their information is aggregated at one spot. So if they want to sit on a Sunday morning with their spouse and be like, let's look at the finances.
Sure, yeah.
It's live and it's active. But if they do call me and we don't have an assigned time together to talk, we're just picking up the phone, I can actually log in and see it with them. So we're having a conversation in real time, and that has been a life changer for me.
Yeah.
It has.
And, talk to us about COVID, because I think all of us have had such unique experiences, both as, clients or business owners, whichever side you're sitting on. How has that really impacted your practice, other than we're doing Zooms?
Yep.
Right?
So a lot of Zooms, right? A lot of the fact that now we have to be licensed in the states with which we have our clients. Well, wow, I can reach a lot more clients, right? Because I don't have to go to Virginia every week. So those 2 clients that I probably didn't take on before because I wasn't licensed, well, if I get licensed there, then we can really have a good working relationship.
Yeah.
And I am lucky because we did live abroad. A lot of my friends, a lot of my colleagues, a lot of my connections are scattered throughout the U.S.
Perfect.
So now I can be a resource to them and vice
Right.
versa, which I think is fantastic. So that's been really helpful. Again, using the virtual assistants to their maximum, wow. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think I ever would have been pushed to do that if it wasn't for COVID, having the paperless system. I was paperless before we moved, and everything was cloud-based and backed up before we even went into COVID distancing. So I had all of my files there. And I
Yeah.
think that was a life lesson for many advisors, that paper files have to be a thing of the past.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You've got to put stuff on the cloud. And you also said something that, I want to address. I think a lot of times what's so hard is if you're working with an advisor or looking for an advisor, you're sort of just looking at it from a geographical perspective, but that doesn't mean you're finding the right one for you.
No.
So now, if you're able to go virtually, and we have this conversation all the time, I think people are done with the come to my house late at night or super early in the morning before I go to work. It literally can be a Zoom call for 30 minutes, right? And you're just opening everything up to say, I can work with anyone, and it's based on, do you like my personality? Do you like my expertise? There's a rapport, right? That's really what the relationship should be based on.
It is true, and you're much more accessible for your clients now being on
Which
Zoom.
I think is key.
Yeah.
As the consumer, the choices available to you in finding the right advisor
Yeah.
are limitless.
And don't get me wrong, I love my in-person visits. I'm a hugger. That's who I am. That was the hardest thing about COVID for me, not being able
Send
to
a
hug
virtual
people.
hug on the chat.
There's a lot of those with the gifts that I use.
Yeah.
But more than anything else, too, it's just the fact that I'm a better mom, too. Because I'm not commuting. I'm not driving 2 hours to see clients.
Yep.
And because I have so many of my clients that are single women, they put their kids to bed and then they do want to sit with me at
Yes.
the dining room table when the kids are quiet.
Yes.
Well,
Right.
then I'm not coming home till 10:30 at night.
No.
So, but if we can keep it on Zoom, everyone's quiet, everyone has their privacy, we
Right.
can be more fluid, we can do it on a
Wonderful.
lunch hour.
Yep.
That has freed me. And if I'm a better mom and I'm a better person overall in general, I'm a better advisor for my
You
clients.
There you go.
We have
It's-
about 40 seconds.
Yep.
What would you tell Donna as a young woman entering this business today?
To do it. Don't wait for tomorrow. Do it now.
Yeah,
Yep. I'm a career changer. Wish I would have done this in my 20s.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's been such a pleasure to have you on, Donna.
Yeah.
Thank you.
To
Thanks
hear
for
your
joining
story
us.
and sharing it with us. It's been amazing.
I appreciate the opportunity so much.
You're very
You guys
welcome.
are great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And to our audience, thank you so much for joining us today and listening to Donna's story about her journey becoming a financial advisor. Until next time, be well.